Welcome to Taking It to the Streets. I'm your host, Andy Goldman from sunny St. Pete, Florida. This is the show where we take it to the streets, knowing if we don't, the streets will take it to us. Welcome to Taking It to the Streets. It's, of course, Andy Goldman, joined by Rich Beem. Before we get on to the PGA tournament this week, which, of course, is the PGA, this show is brought to you by Wrightwood Medical, your home for refurbished, used medical equipment, the leader. You can reach Wrightwood directly, 773-848-7100, or online, of course, www.wrightwood.medical.com. Beemer, you always have that good farmer's tan going, little red-faced.
I thought I put sunscreen on this morning, but I didn't. And the reason I didn't is I had retina surgery on my right eye last week, and so I've been very cautious of putting anything on my face that would fall into it. But I thought I'd put on some of that rub-on stuff. Apparently I didn't. So yeah, I look a little reddish today.
All right. Before we get on to the core, of course, this week's huge one, we got to ask the obvious. This year, every year when the PGA comes around, do you get that funny feeling inside? How could you not? And you'll laugh it off, and I know you're going to tell me no. I've wanted to ask you this for weeks now, but don't you? Do your kids? Does your wife? Is there texts? I mean, what is the deal? Like, hey, Dad. Or is it nothing?
I think it's kind of waned just because I don't play, really anymore. I'll play next year. Now that I'm taking a different, route with everything, Andy. And it's a different time of the year too. When I was in August. So we just had a different feeling about it now. It's just kind of like everybody's still kind of, Masters hangover, finally getting out of that. And now we're falling into PGA week. But no, I think that's kind of disappeared a little bit. I think that just comes with time more than anything else. But in fact, I talked to my daughter today, and it was more about, what does she want for the merchandise shop and anything else. So no, I don't think that anybody, I'll get the odd person here or there, but I think especially from family, it's kind of another week, status quo, just because, again, I don't play it anymore. It's got a different feeling to it. Even to me, I walked around today with a good friend of mine, Ben Kern, one of the club pros that qualified, and I had a blast walking around. I did not miss having my clubs in my hand. And so that just kind of tells me that, it's okay.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Beemer. So a couple of things just that I wanted to talk to you about since the last time we spoke, which was before the Masters. Where are we at with Sungjae Im? This is really becoming an enigma for me to talk about him and think about him and bet on him, to be blunt, and all these different things. Let me give you the backstory of where I'm going with this. Is that this is an ancient 28-year-old when you factor in how long he's been on tour. He's been on tour since 18. So that makes him ancient. To put in perspective, Harry Hall's the same age. He's been on tour half as long. So he is ancient as a 28-year-old can be. He's out there grinding week in and week out. Let's cut to the chase, which was last weekend. I don't think he could have a worse tournament. I don't know if a human can have his worst tournament. If you miss 5 birdie putts from inside of 5 feet and you're a pro, if you're a 20 handicap, that's a bad day, Rich. And that's not even looking up how many par putts he missed and how many birdie putts he missed that are outside of 5 feet. So atrocious doesn't put it. And these guys need to take some heat also. People out there betting on them, let's be real. Just like any other pro athlete. A football player plays like that, he's going to take heat. A Major League Baseball player, an NBA player, time for a guy to take some heat. We don't talk through their backswing. We're told not to do that as fans, all kinds of stuff. They got to take a little heat when they miss 5 birdie putts from 5 feet or shorter. And I don't get this guy because I don't want to quit on him, but I'm starting to want to quit on him. So you take it from there. Is this the bottom for him, or are we is he just 28? He's still figuring it out. Because I don't think
no, I don't think that's it all.
Right.
Funny enough, I didn't catch too much of the golf last weekend. My in-laws came in town, and I had some other things going on again. But I did know that his putting stats were pretty atrocious. I recently found out that he didn't start back on tour this year until Bay Hill with some injuries and whatnot. That notwithstanding, Andy, I played this game for many, many, many moons. And again, I've played some of the hardest golf courses on the planet. Quail Hollow would rank, probably somewhere in my top 10, no matter whether it's set for PGA Tour event or the PGA Championship, which is where it was last year. It's just a hard event. The greens are difficult. Everything about the golf course is difficult. I mean, I've missed 5 footers all day long, and you can't get out of it. I think that's sometimes the nature of this game that has provided me with so much and provides these guys with a ton. From a gambling standpoint, you know, here's the difference. The professional athletes, you're talking about the football players, the baseball players, the basketball players, and stuff like that. They're getting a salary. They're getting paid. They've signed a contract and they're getting paid. Most of them are going to be paid guaranteed, especially in baseball, guaranteed contracts. Sunday's making his money. Sunday's out there trying to trying to win a golf tournament on his own. The more putts that he misses means the less money he makes last week. It's only hurting himself. It's not hurting a team. It's not hurting anybody differently. It's only hurting him. Now, when it comes to the gamblers, man, I'm sorry. That's just the way that if you play this game for any decent amount of time, you're going to have a shitty day like he did, where you're going to miss everything. That's the breaks. That's just how it goes. So I don't, you look at everything more in a gambling sense where that, in golf, that's never my brain. In fact, most sports, that's never my brain because I can understand what most athletes can have or will go through at some point in time. But Sungjae, you know, he's a grinder. He's going to keep on grinding. He's going to forget exactly what happened this last weekend. But some days, some days you're the windshield. Some days you're the bug. That's about as easy as I can explain it. It's about as easy as I can explain it. And again, I never in a million years would look at it from a gambling standpoint, Andy. Even though we've talked about gambling before, and that's why we don't do our show anymore because I can't, do anything with gambling per PGA Tour regulations. But I just never in a million years would I think about, oh, this guy's missing all these putts. I'm losing money. I'm worried about him losing money just because I've been on that side of the equation. Every time he misses a putt, I'm thinking I'm letting myself down first and foremost. My caddy's out there; he's getting paid by my percentages. Then I got bills to pay. I got XYZ going on. Listen, when it's going south out there, there's a billion things going through your mind, thinking about what the gamblers are losing. Ain't one of them.
No, he's gambling on himself. I mean, really,
Of
that
course he
he's a
is.
1099 employee. He's a definition of he's making the biggest bet, not anybody out there who's
He's making the
betting
biggest
on
bet
him.
of all.
Yeah,
No, that's exactly right. So I
right.
mean,
He's betting
again,
on himself.
yeah, exactly.
No, I'm
And so
not,
that's
Rich.
that's
I'm not suggesting any way that anything's rigged or anything like that. I'm just
Oh
talking.
yeah, no. I guess I guess when people look at him though as somebody that should be doing better, should he be doing better? Absolutely. If you look at the list last week where he's finishing the FedEx Cup, he's finished. I want to say every year that he's played, he's finished in the top 30. Going into last week, he's 104th. That's not Sungjae Im numbers. I didn't get a chance to hear what the injury was. I didn't know about it. I just figured, he was coming off a military service. Even though it was a shortened military service, he
Yeah.
still had to go do something because he got out of it by winning, I want to say a gold medal in a Goodwill Games or something like that. But again, I think that there's something that's behind it. And again, man, he's been out there for 8 years, and some years you're just gonna not have it, and it might be an off year for him. He may not finish in the top 30. Hell, he may not even finish in the top 70. But the kid's a talent, man, and he'll figure it out sooner or later. Because listen, if you give me all of the strokes that he had, the bad strokes, I'd take his bad strokes because he strokes it pretty damn good.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just wondering. I'm starting to wonder, Beamer, if we're not seeing Tony Finau 2.0 here, because that's really the career path that I'm making the reference, the
I got
comparison
you.
to him. And I just don't know if we're seeing Tony Finau 2.0. And when do you know if it's Tony Finau 2.0?
Yeah, and again, I think that Tony, he's got a lot on his plate. Again, I always look at whenever we talk about players and circumstances and things like that, especially when it comes to golf, I have to look at the big picture. I can't just look at the raw numbers. Kind of look, what's going on. And I don't know anything for sure in his life. I know there's a lawsuit that was
Yeah.
against him for many years. I don't know where that sits. He's got what, 6 kids, I believe, with his wife, and they're growing up. You never know what goes on when a player, packs up his bags and goes home. What's going on anywhere. And I'm not suggesting anything is bad by any stretch of the imagination. But listen, man, balancing 4 days of golf, tournament golf, and life, especially when you got kids and things like that, sometimes you just aren't focused on the right things. Tony does mess around with different techniques, especially when it comes to putting, and that can drain on you. He hasn't found anything that sticks as of yet, nor will he ever, in my mind's eye. Again, he's searching. And when you're searching, Andy, you're not, that's when you really can get lost. When you're out there searching for something, especially when he's looking at putting and things like that, he's going to get lost. That's just a fact. I don't know where he sits, Tony, with his old coach Boyd Summerhays, but that's when he had the greatest successes that he's had.
Yeah.
I don't know the dynamic there, but Boyd was a great coach, a great mentor, friend, confidant, all of it. So sometimes you go looking for things that just aren't there, and you got to stick with what's got you there in the first place. And probably, Boyd, I would imagine, comes back in the picture before too long, because Tony's too good of a player to be struggling like this. But again, man, you never know. I mean, you never know. It's the strangest sport, and I think it goes with all sports. Andy, is that you just don't know about what it's like away from the game, because all you see is this player in the game. You don't see what goes on behind closed doors, and athletes, all of them, they're people too, man. They've got problems just like everybody else on the planet, and you just don't get to see them because they're put on this pedestal sometimes. And man, there's stuff that goes on behind closed doors you just don't know about. And granted, some athletes are just complete asshats, behind closed doors, and that's their own fault. So, but I think the guys that we're talking about right now, between Tony and Sungjae, they're about as decent a human beings as you're going to find. I mean, I don't think you can find two finer human beings on the PGA Tour than those two guys. They're just salt of the earth, and they're the nicest guys ever. But yet, people struggle, man. It's the nature of the game.
Well, like I said, I'm a fan of Sungjae's. I've never been a big Tony fan. I take your word. I obviously don't know
Yeah,
enough.
see, I'm a big Tony fan. I've known Tony since he came out of the Corn Ferry tournament. I'm a massive Tony Finau fan. This guy's got all the talent on the planet, and I hope that he wins. I hope he wins, a dozen more times. I hope he wins a major or two. He's that talented, and he's a competitive athlete. And I love both of them, but Tony Finau is my guy between those two.
Yeah, interesting. Beamer, that lawsuit has really got to weigh on him, as it would any of us.
I think it
To go
does.
out and
There's
play
no doubt.
72 holes of championship, you know, level signature event type stuff, and be in the mix on Sunday, which he
Yeah,
hasn't been, has got to be asking the world even
yeah.
before you get to raising 6 kids at home.
Of course, and then I know that he and his wife left Salt Lake. I think on the outskirts of Salt Lake, said they moved to Phoenix, Arizona. Again, I think this was years ago, but I mean, after a while, you tend to miss certain things about home, because Salt Lake was their home base for so many years. That's where their families were. That's where their tight knit community was. And so after a while, you lose some of that support. But you know, uh, any lawsuit, it doesn't matter how,
Frivolous.
I'm going to say, yeah, frivolous it is. That's a perfect word. How frivolous it is, it's going to garner attention, and you can't escape it. And there's going to be two truths. We have one story here, one story here. Between those two stories, it's going to be the truth somewhere. This guy felt like he was wronged. Was there anything egregious on Tony's part? Maybe something, but I don't think I don't look at Tony and think, that guy was trying to get away with something. He's gonna. I don't see that at all. He just has never. He's never presented himself even close to that. So, but it harms you from the simple fact that there's a negative light portrayed on you for the first time, and it's just like, no matter how good that you're liked, somebody's not going to like you, and this is going to give them a wedge. Like, oh, I don't look at that. He's trying to cheat this guy out of $20 million. Like, bullshit. But I dare anybody. It'd wear on anybody.
All right, on to what we saw last week, and I don't know how much you saw. You said you weren't really watching a
I
much.
saw it a little bit. I watched a lot. I mean, I kept in touch with this because
No.
I was following a couple of different players. I watched a little bit on Saturday and Sunday.
I'm telling you, Rich, that was one heck of a golf tournament on a lot of different levels. Let's start with the bad. The bad is Sungjae on a couple of different levels. Not only the missed putts, but he goes off on Sunday and he's still in the tournament. That's after the terrible one on Saturday, where he's the 54 hole leader, I believe. And he comes up on Saturday, lays an egg. So he gets put, and this is a big belief of mine, in that non-weighted game. That's a different game than teeing off at 11 a.m. versus teeing off at 2 p.m. A lot less cameras, a lot less scrutiny, lesser opponent for that given week. Golf's tricky. Your quality of your opponent changes by the minute, but we just, for that tournament, you're going off at 11, there's less pressure. So he's able to swoop up and actually find the number one spot midway through the round. And second back nine, he gives way. He gives way.
Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, I would have really thought, because I'm a big believer that if you're a rookie and you're playing in the final group on Sunday, and I don't care if it's the Puerto Rico Open or if it's at the Truist, but this was the Truist, this was a signature event, then you're in over your skis. That final group, if I don't have the numbers for that, I don't have the weighted versus the non-weighted, but it's kind of the essence of my theory on weighted versus non-weighted. That's the ultimate weighted game, is the last group to go off. It doesn't help if you've been playing something you, Rich, said on this podcast when we talked about the DP Euro players that are trying to make it on the PGA Tour, and you said, I'm just paraphrasing from what I remember, they're not used to that kind of grind and being under the pump that permeates the final group on Sunday. They're just not. They don't play to that kind of stressful environment week in, week out in the Euro Tour tournament. They're talented over there, no question. That's maybe the difference. Is that correct of what you kind of?
Well, they have the weight of trying to win, because I think winning anywhere around the world, no matter what tour it is, because the reason you're on that tour is for a certain reason, because that's what you qualified for. That's where you're at. There's no your talents are saying this is where you have to play. You just don't have as many eyeballs, as many cameras. It's a little bit more user friendly environment from that perspective, but from the perspective of trying to win, no matter where you're at, what term it is, it's a big deal. And I'll give you one small uh, example.
Hmm?
There's a guy named Chris Wood. Chris Wood is a Ryder Cupper, played on the European side Ryder Cup. This guy was all playing, a big, tall kid, 6'5". This guy could flat out play. He was amazing. Mentally, he lost it. Completely lost his game and went just not even on the world rankings anymore. He won this last weekend on I forget the name of the tour. It's the tour that feeds into the European tour, the Web Planner tour or something like that. It feeds into the European tour, and he won this last weekend. I watched a guy, Andy. He broke down so much, and it was amazing to see, because when you lose it mentally in this game, well, I'd say I don't know what it's like. It would be like a pitcher. Who is the who is the pitcher? I think he was called Wild Thing. I think that was his nickname for a while.
Mitch Williams.
Mitch Williams just couldn't miss for a long time, and all of a sudden threw one ball out into threw one in the dugout from the
And that was
from
the
the
end of the career.
that was the end of the career. And you're just like, how do you go from there to there? So I think about Mitch Williams. Think about him having to go back down to single A ball
Hmm.
and working his way back up to get back up in the
It's
majors.
tough to go to Appleton when you're used to Philadelphia.
That's exactly right. And so that's how I would kind of, in a sense, put Chris Wood, because he really, really struggled. So, the context of where I was kind of going at is that, listen, it's not, it winning is everything. It's sometimes a little bit, it seems easier when you're on the European tour and there may not be 30,000 people or at least 20,000 people looking at you like they were at Quails Hollow this last weekend, but it's still trying to win because you know how much it's going to mean to you and your career. It's a little bit different with all the eyeballs on you. And I think that most people most players will have admitted that, and because it is a big difference. There's no doubt. But winning is winning, no matter where you're at, because it's a big deal.
Well, here's the thing. We digress a little bit about Alex Fitzpatrick. Is normally, I really wouldn't be interested. I feel like he would be the flavor of the month, the flavor of the week, a real guy to try to sell off. But I'll tell you, I watched him at the Zurich, and he held his own and carried his weight with his brother to get himself that 2-year exemption. It wasn't like watching Davis Riley and Nick Hardy play and watch Davis Riley do all the work and Nick Hardy got a 2-year exemption off of it. And we know what happens there. This kid earned his stripes. It was incredible. Obviously, seeing him at the Cadillac, at Doral, seeing him,
Finished tied ninth. Yeah, a great
he's
week
been
there.
unbelievable. It's been incredible watching it. My gut tells me this kid might be for real. Absolutely might be for real. Here's the thing when I go back to that final group, it was deceiving because Wrighton, as well as Alex Fitzpatrick, are not as young as you think. Wrighton is 28 years old. Fitzpatrick is 27 years old. They are not green, wide-eyed kids from the Corn Ferry, the Blades Brown thing. That is not who we saw playing in that final group. It was deceiving.
Yeah,
Folks, Wrighton has pedigree. He is, I believe, the first player, human from Norway before Hovland, I believe, to play in the U.S. Open. He played in the U.S. Open before Hovland did. Okay, this is not a flavor of the week kind of thing. Alex is Alex. He's got ridiculous pedigree,
yeah.
obviously with his brother. It was for real. So they took the charge from the would-be PGA peloton, as I would say. And those guys that teed off in the non-weighted games, Fleetwood, Fowler, uh, Nikolai Hojgaard,
Oygaard.
real players. And they came up and
Yeah,
swooped up and greeted those two that had been battling each other from the get-go in the last round.
yeah.
And they could not move past them. They could not move past them. So I think this Wrighton, as well as Alex, made a great amends for themselves, Rich.
100%, 100%. And before we go on, and I was sitting there last
Yep.
week. Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure that Wrighton also finished runner up in New Orleans. Um, I was sitting around 2 weeks ago at the Cadillac, and there's a guy that now works for the European Tour, player liaison. And I used to play golf with him when was on the European Tour. Super nice guy, Swedish, and I love Swedes because Swedes are very matter of fact. This is it, red. This is black and white, and they have a lot of passion. They have a lot of belief. They don't cut through. They cut through the red tape, and there's no bullshit about them. But he told me a story about Christopher Wrighton.
Hmm.
Apparently, Christopher Wrighton's family, I think it was started by his granddad. They're like they're like owner of the Publix in Norway. They have stupid money.
Hmm.
Like they own grocery stores everywhere, everywhere in Norway. And granddad was like telling his son, when is your son gonna, give up this game and come and work for us? And his dad said, listen, this is his passion, and he's gonna go with it. But Christopher also didn't take a single family nickel. He's been doing this all on his own. He's earned every single penny that he's gotten out
Hmm.
there. According to my source from the European Tour, he said that he told his dad, he says, "Listen, I don't want any of your money. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to do this on my own, and I don't want to have the assurances if I don't succeed that I'm just falling back on family money." That's what I was told. That's what I was told to believe. I thought that was very interesting
Interesting
because
story.
yeah, because you think that a lot of guys in this day and age can fall back, and there's a couple of players out here. Maverick McNeely seems to be one of them where he's gone out and earned his keep on, even though his dad, founder of Sun Microsystems, if you just do a little research on him, dad has a few shackles in the bank.
Oh,
Um,
of course, Scott McNeely is a Silicon Valley legend
yeah. So, anyways,
On Microsystems. Yeah.
yeah, Sun Microsystems. Is that what I said? Sun? I knew it was Sun something.
Yeah.
Anyways, but anyway, so Christopher Wright, and apparently his family they're incredibly wealthy, but he just decided, I'm doing this golf. I'm committed to it. I appreciate it, but let me do this on my own. And it's been very successful on his own because he did finish runner up in New Orleans, as I mentioned earlier. That's what qualified him for the Cadillac, which is where he played very well, and then obviously won. So he's been trending the last couple of weeks. I know they came to his top 10 off of the DP World Tour to get on the PGA Tour this season. But I mean, that just goes to show again the depth of the DP World Tour, and when you got these guys
I was
that
gonna
finish
say,
in the top 10,
Beamer,
top
these
10.
guys, I keep a glance at it. Obviously, I'm a total golf nerd, and I'll watch it. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
No, you're fine.
I see Pari, I see is it Pari or Perry? Um,
Harry, yep.
there are guys in that on that tour from Alex to the early roots of
Marco
Tommy
Penge,
Fleetwood.
Marco Penge. We haven't talked much about Marco Penge this year. He's had a couple of decent finishes, but I mean, listen, this kid won 3 times last year, and he's not the guy that's out there leading the way for the DP World Tour guys. So there's so much depth, and I think it's good to see for the DP World Tour because I think it will actually give, if they're paying attention, it'll give American kids, college kids, it will give them thoughts about going and playing on the DP World Tour. It's going to take you out of your comfort zone. You're going to have to play all around the world. You're going to have to go everywhere from China down to Johannesburg through Dubai, and you have to go play all around in Europe, and go back to Australia. You got to play in every continent around the world to become successful. But I think that what these 10 guys are doing right now shows that, listen, if you're willing to put in the work and you're willing to put in the travel, playing United States is easy. Now, granted, the PGA Tour is not easy, but playing within 4 time zones is a piece of cake. Most of these guys are going across 8 or 9 time zones per week to go play. And the DP World guys out there watching them play well, I think it's amazing. I think it's incredible. Of course, we do poach them for the DP World Tour, so that tour
Yeah.
is missing some guys, but they're going to produce 10 more guys that can flat out play. They're showing that winning on the DP World Tour means something. It means a
Beamer, are
lot.
we ever going to see Higo like we saw him? When I think of what you're describing, that reminds me of
Sure. Yeah.
Higo was absolutely just traveling all over the world, literally. He was
Yeah.
unbelievable. He went at the Canary Islands shooting 63. It was unreal. I was following him.
Yeah.
He hasn't been the same in a couple of years. And where
He's
does it go? Is he
Yeah,
tired?
he's changed a couple of things with his golf swing. His golf swing has gotten really different since those wins, looking for a little more consistency. The short game is still there. I mean, the guy's chipping and putting it's a joke. He played great in the fall season last year, had a couple of chances to win, one most notably in Mexico. But, I think that, again, it's kind of playing in cycles a little bit. It's getting back to where he wants to be and where he wants to belong after winning in Congaree on a complete snafu. It wasn't even supposed to be the tournament. But
I know something in me is like you, Rich. I believe in him. I really do. I know it's hard
there's
because
something
he
about it.
hasn't played well lately.
I think the hard thing for me to get past is he's such a good chipper and good putter. And if you could chip and putt on the PGA Tour, holy guacamole, man, the world could be your oyster because all you got to do is figure out how to put the driving and iron play somewhere decently for 4 rounds. You don't have to be completely spectacular. You just got to go ahead and get it somewhere around the hole and let the magic
Isn't that
take
what
over.
Cam Smith basically does? He's
So Cam Smith was
insane
amazing at
around the
that's
green, and he's
yeah,
not.
and it's not that he was a bad ball striker, but yeah, that's exactly what his strengths were. Brad Faxon was one of the original guys to do that as well. I mean, the guy could chip and putt the light balls out of it, and the ball striking just kind of needed to be there every so often. But again, these guys all put loads and loads of work in, but Higo, I think he'll kind of go in waves a little bit, Andy. I don't think we're going to see him, riding this crest for many moons. He's more of a streaky player to me in that context. I just don't see him being somebody that you're going to see on TV every weekend. I think you'll see him get up there, maybe flame out over the weekend, or he'll get up there and continue to stay up there. He's just not going to be I'm in the mix 15 events a year or even 10 events a year. I think 5 at the most is what you're going to get out of Garrett Higo, which is all you need. I mean, if you can be in the mix 5 tournaments
Of
a
course,
year on the PGA Tour, you're going to make a fortune.
of course, of course. This episode of Taking It to the Streets is brought to you by Wrightwood Medical, the leader in used and refurbished medical equipment. Wrightwood specializes in ultrasound equipment, but can also be your vendor of choice when sourcing lower cost alternatives for your operating room suites, scanning the entire medical spectrum. From single physician offices to larger hospitals, Wrightwood is the lower cost solution for your everyday medical equipment needs, and all of Wrightwood's equipment comes with warranty. You can reach Wrightwood directly at www.wrightwoodmedical.com. That is with a W, WRIGHTWOOD medical, or 773-848-7100. Again, 773-848-7100. If it's used medical equipment, it's Wrightwood Medical. Okay, so let's fast forward, Beemer, to this upcoming weekend. I obviously try to find as much information, all of the idiosyncrasies of a golf course. I try to bring to the viewers and talk to everybody about it. This is tough, folks, because there's no backstory with this course, yet there's a huge backstory if you follow the line of the analogy there. So we go back to 2018, was when Keegan Bradley won here, I believe, for in the BMW championship. Yeah. Before that, you're going back to 62. So it's a weird place, kind of in the same vein that the Philadelphia Cricket Club was. There's not a lot of comps. There's not a lot of data even about this place. This is at least from my perspective. Now, here's what I know.
Sure.
Rich will add the color because he knows a lot more than I do. There was a restoration done on this place in 2017-ish. They basically made this place a sand haven. Okay, they added, I think, over 100 bunkers to an already sandy Donald Ross layout. Okay, so Rich, if I'm right, there's over 150 bunkers today at.
Yeah, I haven't counted them, but but there are quite a few of them. Of course, yeah. Some of them won't come into play though. Some of them are completely out of play, but some of them are going to be very much in play.
So sand is the flavor of the day, would be some of the homework I've done that I found out about this place.
Yeah.
Look, when it came down to it, I had to figure out what my comp was, what my comp to this course was going to be. And I came up with, and I don't know if this is right, Rich, Pinehurst number 2 and Riviera.
It's interesting. So when you say sandy, here's one of the interesting things about that comment, Andy. And again, I know that they added a lot of bunkers, but what they did is they didn't space them out. They made clusters of bunkers. Like the left-hand side of number 2, my yardage book isn't right in there here next to me, but there's left-hand side of 2. There's probably 4 or 5 clusters of bunkers where they probably could have made it into 2, but they decided to make 5.
I got you.
Same thing with the third hole. There's 3 bunkers on the left. There's a bunker on the right-hand side that's only 220 off the tee. That's not ever going to come into play for anybody. There's another cluster of bunkers that's down the left-hand side that's probably about 280. Again, there's at least 3 of them instead of just 1. So when you talk about having bunker everywhere, like let's say the fifth hole is a par 3. And this is where you are correct. Fifth hole in the par 3 does remind me a lot of 16 at Riviera. Now you say it, but what they did is instead of have Riviera's got 1, 2, 3 bunkers around it, it might have 4. They might have broken one of them up. Anyways, 5 plays about 7 to 8 yards longer than 16 at Riviera, but there's probably 8 bunkers around it. But it's just surrounded by bunkers around. And again, the greens are massive in size. And so I can understand why on paper it would read as a very bunkery golf course. I look at it and think that it's still very juicy rough. You have to, if you're going to miss the fairway, you got to pick the better of 2 evils. You want to be in a fairway bunker, or do you want to be in 3-inch high and thick rough? Take your poison. Which one you want? It's an exceptional golf course. It does have the vulnerability, I think, of being picked apart by a guy that can pin it a long way off the tee should he find fairways and or leave it in the correct spot where he's got an open shot to the flags. But I think that Mother Nature is going to play a part, and she's not going to make it super soft, which is what it was when Keegan won. I think he shot, say, shot 18 under or something silly, went low. But then again, it was wet. The golf ball wasn't rolling anywhere. I want to say they played locally in place because they kind of had to because it was just everything was soggy and it was throwing darts. The greens were still new, so they weren't spinning. The root system wasn't there, so they could hit it right next to the hole. And it's going to stop there.
And so it was like what we
Um,
saw at Oakmont on
well,
Sunday.
kind of, yeah, but I mean, Oakmont's such a different animal. I don't even like to compare anything to Oakmont
So
except for
savage.
a torture chamber. Yeah, there's just no fun. But it would have been like Valhalla, because last year or a couple years ago, it was playing super soft, all week long, and so golf balls are just landing there, and that's what this place played like in 2018
Okay.
versus something today. But I don't think we're going to see that. I mean, the greens are, you're not going to find a golf course in better condition than this one is right now. I walked the first 9 holes and I was just like, man, is this place pure? Everything about it, they've gotten spot on. I think the way that the golf course is set up, lengthwise, positioning bunkers, mowing patterns, things like that. Is it vulnerable? Of course it is, and you can't. And this is the one thing I love about the PGA Championship and Kerry Haig, who sets it up, is that if a player is going to play well enough and he's in top form, shooting a 64 is totally acceptable. Unlike, say, Shinnecock, if somebody goes out and shoots 64, the members, USGA is going to be up in arms. Here, the members, they might be up in arms, but Kerry Haig's be like, you gave us your golf course. We're setting it up how the way we want to. Or a Winged Foot. Winged Foot always prided itself on being so tough. Same thing with Oakmont. But nobody cares if you shoot. I mean, PGA of America doesn't care if you shoot 64 or even a 63. You know why? Because you've earned it. You played well and you got rewarded for hitting good shots. What they want to do is penalize you when you hit the bad shots. They're not trying to take anything away from you when you hit the good shots. So it is
Is
gettable
there an
from that standpoint.
insinuation? I got to hold on, Beamer. So is there an insinuation there that these other courses you referenced feel insulted about their course if somebody goes
Of
low
course.
because it's an
Oh, of course.
insinuation that an old lady could go out there and shoot
Of
81 on it kind
course.
of thing, and
They
that's
want
the
it to be
takeaway that they don't want?
they don't want anybody. There's a lot of these old courses. And I've heard
Take
it
it
from
personally. I take
from
it
members
personally.
directly. Of course, I've heard it directly from members. That when somebody goes out and is like 7 or 8 under par through 2 rounds, they're like, I don't know what the hell the USGA is doing here, but this is bullshit. I mean, our golf course, should be even par winning this room. It's like, so what you're telling me is that you should penalize, you shouldn't reward them, the top players, for good shots. You still want to punish them for a good shot. Like that's not golf, man. That's just putting a number out there that's just stupid. But again, I think that Aronimink this week is going to play. You're going to see some pretty low scores, and then I think that there's going to be enough breezes and warm weather, especially Friday through the weekend, where this golf course could get a little bouncy, and shooting a couple under par is going to be a hell of a score. You got to keep in the back. It's a par 70, length of 7,400 yards. It's a man-sized golf course. It's a big ballpark here. Again, if you can keep the ball in play, man, you can you can give yourself
Well,
some
it's
looks
a par
on these greens.
70, Beamer, so it's not exactly Bethpage. It's not some massive beast. The homework I done said you got to be able to be pinpoint from 150 to 200. That's the cheat sheet at this place. Obviously, that's not illuminating. Most places you have to be pinpoint from 150 to 200 as a PGA player, but that's a little short than
Yeah,
Bethpage or
it,
Torrey or
it
Olympia Fields.
this golf course is meaty in the par fives and the par threes. The par fours are the ones that I saw today. Guys are going in with shorter irons, and usually that's where you get, golf course like this, you get the 510-yard par fours and this and that. I don't think that there's one of them that's, that kind of length that's on the back nine.
Okay.
The front nine it's got all of its length in eight and nine. Eight's a 240-yard par three straight downhill, and nine is a 620-yard par five. but the rest of the holes, they're manageable. The back nine's going to be a little bit more difficult because it's longer and it's got a little bit more teeth to it.
This place
But
tougher or easier, Beamer, than Philadelphia cricket? I mean, what are we? It's around the corner from there, basically. So that would
yeah,
be the. Is it the same kind of thing, or is it easier? I don't know why my
it's
thoughts
not
tell me it's
it's
even
not it's
easier.
not easier. I wouldn't say it's easier. Again, a little bit different conditions. I think I think Philly Cricket Club is going to be easier, especially I think at Philly Cricket Club last time it was a big golf course because it was so long, it was so wet, had rain every single day and some winds and things like that. But I can tell you this right now, Philly
Mhm.
Cricket Club's greens were firmer than what these are right now. And I also think the Philly Cricket Club's greens were so much more difficult to putt. I think these are a little bit easier to putt. Again, it's I think on a daily basis, this one's going to be a little bit more difficult. But Phillies last year, even with all the rains, the greens were extremely firm from what I do remember now, and getting it close was tough. And then the green complexes were even more difficult to putt. And so, in thinking about it that way, then Aronimink probably is a little bit easier than Philly Cricket Club. But at the end of the day, if you're going to play each of them, days apart from each other, I'd still think you're probably going to struggle at Aronimink just a little bit more.
Who do you like this week, Beamer?
Jesus, I mean, if you say anybody other than Rory McIlroy off the top of your head, I think you're silly. I know that Scotty's a betting favorite. I just think that the guys that are not afraid to turn it loose, I would have to look at. I just think that the further you can hit it, that you're going
Yeah,
to be.
yeah.
Min
Well,
Woolley,
I'll
Min
give you the
Woolley would
three
be.
guys.
You know who
Yes,
I think Hoygaard. Hoygaard might have a great week this week. This is something that you probably would. Um, the one that's playing better right now. I think it's Nikolai is playing better right now, just because he can frickin' smoke it. Put himself in contention last week, if I remember correctly. I'm telling
yes.
you what. I'm telling you what, though, this kid is ripe for the pickings to have a hell of a golf tournament.
And I loved
Um,
it. He was walking up
and
11, looked like he was drinking my drink when he was walking up 11. I grabbed my wife, looked like he had a Starbucks iced vanilla latte in his hand. I
it's
was
it's
loving it.
incredible. It's incredible. Yeah, it's incredible. But I think that a kid like that, because he can hit it a long way and can find the fairway.
Okay.
It's
Well, you might actually. I don't want to put words in your mouth. So who do you like? You like Rory? Yeah, it appears.
well, I like Rory. I like Quigard. I was just looking at this. Sorry, I was looking at some names here that jump out. Ludwig,
Okay.
Xander. I think Xander would love this place. I think Xander, for whatever reason, I can't get his name out of my head. I think Xander's going to love this place. He's picked up some length, even coming off the injury last year, but he's close. He's close to putting it all together. He knows how to win a PGA, albeit on a different venue. I think Xander, if I was kind of looking at all the names, I was just saying Xander, I think he's right on the cusp of having another win and having making it a big one.
I had three guys after all the homework I did. I had three guys. Of course, you're not going to get Xander, Rory, or Scheffler out of my mouth. I understand they're the best, so we're looking for maybe more of a wise guy angle to the whole thing. And
Yeah,
quite frankly, folks, Scheffler's won once this year, so you're not going out on a limb by betting against him. Let me repeat
yeah,
it. He's won once time this year, so going against him is not like you're doing something that's crazy. Okay, here we go. Three guys came out of my head after I was done doing my research on it.
okay,
Minwoo Lee,
uh-huh,
Cootie, and
interesting.
the guy have winning it, Quadzilla, Kurt Kitayama.
Oh,
And I'll go
Kittyama,
to the wall with
interesting.
Kitayama on this one. I will go to the wall, folks, with this one.
Didn't
He's
see that when
playing
you
the
said
best
Quadzilla. I
of
thought you
his
meant
career,
Matsuyama.
Rich. He's playing the best of his
Oh yeah,
career right now, and
yeah, sure.
this isn't a wet behind the ears rookie that's going to be uh, shocked by the moment. Playing in a final group on Sunday. This is a 33-year-old man that absolutely is playing the best of his career. Three of his last eight are top tens, and there's a second, and that was at the Genesis at Riviera, which I absolutely circled and point to. They're all elevated events. So this guy's playing unbelievable golf right now. He gets no PR. He's going to hit the you know what out of the ball at the tee. And I think he's going to be looking at a bunch of 130 shots in. And then it becomes whether he can make the putt or not make the putt. But I don't know, Rich.
Yeah.
This is a now or never moment for Kitayama.
That's a great shout. I was just kind of flipping through a lot of things. Chris Goddard would have to be on top of one of my lists as well, because I mean this guy's unbelievable. But again, he's kind of trending in that area career wise. But Kitayama, yeah, I mean, again, the length I think is going to be so important this week, because there's a couple of dog legs, especially where 6 and 7 are back-to-back holes where you can reduce these 2 holes to absolutely nothing and turn them in from a 3-wood 8-iron to a driver lob wedge, and have way better opportunity to get it close and make birdie there. You just got to be able to pull out the driver and find the fairway and hit it.
What do you like or don't like about Kitayama, Minwoo Lee, Cootie? Cootie's just a guy that seems so green.
So the only one that sticks out that's a little bit surprising was Cootie. And the reason why I say that is he started off the year so good. And yet he's kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit. And
since the Genesis. Yeah.
And where I'm going with this is that I saw him, and this would have been, I guess it would have been 3 weeks after the Genesis. This would have been, I saw him at the Players Championship, and he had his coach behind him in one of the fairways, and they're going through all these different iterations. They're looking at the swing and this and that. And Pearson flat out fats one shot, drops another ball, and completely mishits the second one. I'm like, this kid is got unbelievable talent. Why are you messing with anything that he's done 3 weeks ago? Maybe they're building on something that kind of got him to that position, but boy, howdy. I mean, I'd be hard pressed to sit there and tell him anything, to do anything other than, hey, let's just keep swinging at it freely and go out and play some golf. Again, that's just me not being privy to what's going on behind closed doors, but holy cow. I mean, it looked like they're trying to reinvent a bicycle, using an iron and an ironing board. I'm like, listen, guys.
I totally get it. You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of Fitzpatrick at the Masters, I believe. When he slowed down his pace of play is when bad things occurred. He's a fast player. He likes to go in the moment and play quickly. So does his little brother. And when he slowed the game down for conjecture with his caddy or checking the wind rotation, things went bad. My brain said, here comes the bad shot.
Yeah.
And they want to play quickly, just like Cootie. Yeah. Cootie was in his zone prior to Riviera, and he played well.
And he's got one of the swings that you listen. I always say this. Listen, if I had his swing and he had a feather, we'd both be tickled. I mean, holy cow, give me that action 8 days a week, and we're going to go take this thing out for a spin, and we're going to make some serious money. Again, though, I mean, I don't know what they're doing behind closed doors, but this guy's got all the talent in the world. I mean, this guy's stupid talented. Like, obviously, there's something holding him back. And you can get so lost in the process of figuring out how, and lose sight that this is a game of how many. And I, for some odd reason, Andy, I get the sneaky suspicion that he's still playing how many instead of playing, he's playing how instead of how many. And, but he's the only one. I mean, I think you make legitimate, I think Minwoo, I think the good thing about him is that he likes to have fun. And this is a golf course where you can have some fun because you don't have to fire at all the pins. You can hit it out to the right and spin it off of a hill. You can work it in so many different ways to get it close. It's not always a straight line. And so I think that he'll really embrace that. He'll embrace that quite a bit. But, the Cootie pick was just, I would have to talk you down off of that. If we were going to go, if we were going to go make a bet, if we were anywhere near each other, I'd probably have to say, Andy, let's just decompress a little bit, buddy.
But Kitayama, Quadzilla, along with Minwoo, you're saying those are green lights.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think that those guys have an excellent chance at it. I think they're both I mean, here's the thing, Andy, about it this week. I think the guy that wins it is going to be excited about the golf course. And I can already tell that not everybody's going to be excited about it. Listen, if I were playing, I'd be excited about it. I think this is one really interesting, one cool golf course. It's it's straight in front of you, but you don't have to hit straight shots to get it to where you need to go. There's a lot of places where like the fifth hole, no, fourth hole. It looks like it's a dog leg from left from right to left, but it looks like the fairway should be tilting from right to left. In fact, it tilts the other way. So in order to hit it, you almost have to hit a draw and to hold the fairway. And guys that hit fades are going to hit and it's going to roll off to the right into this rough. And I think there's a couple of shots out there that don't quite give you the entire picture off the tee. And you have to embrace that. You got to look at things and go, listen, and this, I know it looks like it should go this way, but it goes the opposite way. So now I've got to figure out a way to hit it over here in order to find the fairway if I can't hit it this other way, if I can't move it from right to left. But I think that there's going to be guys out there that are going to bitch about it. They're not going to like it. Oh, that's so stupid. And they're like going, dude, that's fun. This is exactly what golf should be like. I mean, because it is, you do have to work and you have to shape it into some of these fairways. And
Well, what you're describing to me are the guys that cry on Pete Dye courses for exactly the same reasons.
Sure, absolutely, 100%, 100%. Yeah.
Why do they play that?
Cool
Why do they play that week at Harbor Town and the like, knowing that it's a Pete Dye and knowing that it's going to be tricked up? Why do they play if they're going to cry?
And because it might be their one good week they have on tour. 3 points. I give you 3.6 million reasons why.
Folks, we're gonna say goodbye to Beemer. With Rich, you come back.
What a great time!
Come back for the U.S. Open, of course.
Yep. Shinnecock. That's right.
I'm going to plant the seed. We'll lead with this question in a month when it's more of golf season for the rest of you folks that live outside of Florida. I am a 13 index, and I'm going to get Rich to just simmer on this one. How does a 13 index become a 9.9 index? How does that happen other than the obvious, which is what every pro will tell you, go practice your short game. We'll ask Rich, don't hold your tongue, Beemer. We'll get it in a month, but that is the $1 trillion question for people that are decent players. A 13 index is nothing shabby, especially because I started the game post-college, so I didn't play as a kid. But I've been, like many of you that are watching this, I've been kind of languishing at that place for well over a decade now. And I'm losing distance off the tee. These are all realities. So Beemer,
because of age.
Yeah, of course.
But I do have an answer for you. I've got plenty of answers for you. 100%. And this is one thing that I love to do because I truly believe that if I had to give lessons, I would give playing lessons. I think that teaching people how to navigate their way around the golf course is a very underrated thing that people don't understand.
So that's obviously a breadcrumb, folks, that most of us are hitting the wrong club most of the time. That's really probably the breadcrumb. All right, Beemer, have a great tournament, buddy.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks for coming to take it to the streets, and we will see you for the U.S. Open. Goodbye from St. Pete, and remember, folks, you're only as good as your last trade, so never too high, never too low, till we meet again.